तुम हम चुप तो रहेंगे but
Action.
the thing is कि तुम पिछला वाला जो तुम लोग इतना अच्छा था तुम इतना दूर दूर से बोल रहे हो.
Hello guys, welcome to IndieCast 22. Today we are naturally going to be talking about an issue which is very significant, too significant to ignore, especially if you're anywhere in South Asia, in fact anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Yesterday we had visuals of the protesters in Bangladesh storming the residence of the now former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, who fled the country and is now, from my understanding, seeking asylum. And she left the country after several weeks of unending protests, which turned violent on several occasions. About 300 people lost their lives, if I'm not mistaken. And today, that will be the issue of discussion. We will talk about the factors that caused such violent protests. We will talk about the run up to popular disillusionment of the people of Bangladesh. Maybe we will talk about certain other factors which were involved in flaming the fire, and then we will talk about the implications and the way forward. So, off the bat, let's get your thought, Jay.
Thoughts.
Thoughts,
Sorry,
Jay.
thoughts. Anyway, so I think what is happening in Bangladesh is nothing new. It was a government which was running on borrowed time, I feel, because there was a lot of eyes pointed towards Bangladesh because from the perspective of international relations, I feel a stable Bangladesh is not good for other foreign players. And a lot of people would disagree with me. They'll say that it is a students' protest, it is a liberation protest. And I've started seeing another term that's being thrown around a lot by the Western media, specifically organizations like CNN, is that look at how Gen Z is taking over the narrative. But the problem with this is that, okay, fine, I'm not trying to justify the dictatorial aspects of Sheikh Hasina's government, but I'm also trying to say that there cannot be a movement like this without outside interference. And with respect to Bangladesh, it has had a very very unstable democracy for a very long time since its inception, I would say. 1971 you had the liberation war. 4 years later you've got Mujibur Rahman is assassinated. After that, after Mujibur Rahman's assassination, for a few days you have a military run government, then that is also thrown away. And then finally you have a guy called Ziaur Rahman, who takes over. And Ziaur Rahman is an interesting guy because Ziaur Rahman is the husband of the main opposition leader of Bangladesh, the other Begum, Khaleda Zia.
Khaleda Zia.
And it is quite funny, this anecdote, because in 1975 or 76, in the mid 70s, you had two Zias on both the sides of India. You had Zia ul Haq in Pakistan, and you had Ziaur Rahman in Bangladesh. Anyway,
Mhm.
Raj, go ahead.
Uh, I think that you've done a good briefing of the political history of Bangladesh. Let's get down to talking about the recent history. And what was going on now was, I think, that recent circumstances had put Bangladesh in some sort of a boiling pot.
Mm-hmm.
Sheikh Hasina, she maintains very stable and very good relations with India. And as a result, the recent event, especially what happened yesterday, is not in our advantage.
Mm-hmm.
But let's admit that Sheikh Hasina has had some dictatorial tendencies.
Mm-hmm.
She was not a very democratic leader, for the lack
Mm-hmm.
of a better word. She was not at all okay with a lot of protest.
Yeah.
She had tendencies to lock up activists. She had tendencies to quell popular movements with a lot of force. The principal opposition leader Khaleda Zia was imprisoned.
Mm-hmm.
Even now, she just got released yesterday after Sheikh Hasina fled.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are reasons for popular discontent against Sheikh Hasina anyway.
Yeah.
Now, I also factored in an interesting point that Shekhar Gupta was making on his Cut the Clutter today, was that Sheikh Hasina, she had sort of made a personality cult around her late father.
Okay.
Now, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman played a very important role historically. We must give him that. The Bangladeshi people must have acknowledged that.
Mm-hmm.
But now, to only keep him as one personality cult and quell all other opposition, especially in times when the youth, 20, 25-year-old people whose parents were kids when the 71 Liberation War was happening, they don't really relate to that kind of historical background anymore.
Yeah.
So I think as a result of these things, popular disillusionment was creeping up in the psyche of the Bangladeshi youth. This is my raw assessment. So you have
I
anything to add?
I have another thing that I want to add to the whole argument is it is very simple. You will have a popular movement which would involve the students. It will all seem extremely utopian for the first few months. But what happens in these popular movements is that they are always and always taken over by extremist elements. And we cannot deny that in places where you had such popular movements, quote unquote, run by students, they were overrun by extremist elements and they're still suffering from them. Take Libya, for example, take Syria, for example. And given that Bangladesh is no stranger to political violence, I feel such extremist elements would again run the roost, and it would create an extremely dangerous situation for the minorities, specifically Hindus. So, not not only do I not really agree with this notion that, oh, it was like a students movement where they were totally disillusioned by Sheikh Hasina. I get it, some of it was, but personally feel that most of the bloodletting and most of the aggression was essentially coming from the side of Jamaat-e-Islami and all these other Islamic extremist elements, and that should not be ignored at all.
I definitely agree with you.
Yeah.
I think that student movement which started naturally got taken advantage of by maybe more radical forces. On that note, I have been following another journalist from the print, Mr. Deep Haldar, who spends a lot of time in Dhaka, who said something very interesting on another interview at the print itself, in which he said that there are a lot of Jamaat backed universities
Hmm.
around Dhaka.
Yeah.
So when there is a popular movement, quote unquote, students movement, it is very easy for the Jamaat to direct the flow of quote unquote students in a particular movement.
Hmm.
So even when the idea is that maybe the students are not acting independently, that idea has some empirical evidence to back it up, because there are definitely Jamaat backed universities which exist. There is definitely a sentiment which is anti Sheikh Hasina, anti secular, pro, maybe for the lack of a better word, pro Pakistan. So those opinions definitely find uh, some fertile ground in these universities, and as a result, I think it even became even easier. All it needed was a trigger. It became even easier for these protests to begin. The trigger
Absolutely.
eventually became the 1971 war freedom fighters quotas,
Yeah.
which the job quotas were being extended to, I believe, the
Yeah.
grandchildren of freedom fighters. There were some difficulties in determining whose grandchildren should be the beneficiaries of these quotas,
Hmm.
because nobody was out there back in the 70s determining that you get a certificate for being a freedom fighter. Are you fighting in the Mukti Bahini or in this organization? And another thing was that people started perceiving this as Sheikh Hasina trying to give job quotas to sort of people who were somewhat loyalist to the Awami League, because the Awami League had been the leader and at the forefront of the freedom
Yeah.
struggle in 1971.
Yeah.
So grandchildren of freedom fighters would naturally inherit a legacy which would automatically make them
Yeah.
pro state, pro Sheikh
Of course.
Hasina,
Of course.
and this naturally had a lot of resentment in Bangladesh. So what happened was, and I'm pretty much quoting the conversation I think Shekhar Gupta and Deep Haldar had on their platform,
Hmm.
where they basically said that uh, one day Sheikh Hasina came up and said,
Hmm.
if freedom fighters should not be getting the benefit of this quota, who should be getting it? The Razakars.
Hmm.
And then the Jamaati movement really sort of started showing its colors,
Hmm.
and the people owned this Razakar identity.
Yeah.
So they were like, "Ki, okay, too bad, I am a Razakar. If I'm
It's
fighting
like
for my
how
rights or
certain
whatever."
certain Indians, when they're accused of being anti-national, start calling themselves anti-national. It's kind
Yeah.
of like that. But of course, you cannot compare the two, because Razakar is a much more serious allegation in Bangladesh than anti-national, because Razakars were like openly involved in the genocide of Bengali people, specifically Bengali Hindus.
Yeah, I mean, Razakars
Yeah.
were basically Pakistan conspirators
Yes,
in
of
those
course. And
days.
you know, the funny thing is that another historical anecdote. There was a substantial migration of Bihari Muslims, Urdu-speaking Bihari Muslims, to East Pakistan in 1947, who faced a lot of violence from the Hindus in eastern India, and they formed a significant linguistic minority in what was called East Pakistan. These people played a very important role in supporting Pakistan's onslaught in 1979, specifically during the times of Operation Searchlight. So once 1971 war ended, and after all the bloodletting, there was another wave of violence which was directed against Urdu speaking Bihari Muslims in East Pakistan, which led to further 150,000 deaths. So sorry, 150,000 deaths. Yeah. So it was like, so you can't really say that only one community suffered in 1971, because Hindus got killed. Of course, there's disproportionate amounts of Hindus got killed. Disproportionate amounts of Muslim Bengalis also got killed. Liberal, secular Muslim Bengalis got killed, and of course, a lot of Urdu-speaking Bihari Muslims also got killed. So I feel just associating 1971 war with the suffering of Hindus is also unfair.
Yeah. I mean, 2000. Now coming back
Hmm.
to the post liberation violence
Yeah.
and the discrimination that Hindus may have faced in Bangladesh. As recently as 2021, there were reports of anti-Hindu violence in
Yeah.
Bangladesh. India's stance was quite moderated because we've enjoyed very good relations with the Hasina government.
Hmm.
So we had confidence in that administration to sort of quell those violent activities against minorities.
Yeah.
Now, with that administration gone, I think that definitely it will be more difficult for the Hindus in Bangladesh.
Hmm.
We already have heard since yesterday of vandalization of, I think, an ISKCON temple.
Yeah. A
And
Hindu counselor in Rangpur was also killed. Kajal Roy. His name was Kajal Roy, and he was killed
okay,
in the violence.
right.
So
So, Bangladeshi Hindus are not going to have it easy in the next few days. My thoughts and prayers are with them. Uh, the BNP will make claims that even
hmm.
they are a party which is not against Hindus,
Hmm.
and she will BNP will try to sort of put the allegation on Sheikh Hasina that she has portrayed this image that BNP is anti-Hindu, but
Yeah.
they will try to say that we are, very secular and
Yeah.
compliant with
So
whatever constitutional
yeah.
norms that exist over there. But I mean, this is for a combination of historical factors mixed with empirical evidence to decide whether that's actually true.
Of course.
Who is how anti-Hindu? It's hard to determine sitting here
Absolutely.
in Delhi.
Absolutely.
So
Because the thing is that at the end of the day, if you're ruling Bangladesh, which has a 90% Muslim population, it would be very difficult for any political leader to distance themselves from the conservative, cleric based Islamic political thought. And like in India, a lot of people who accuse Rahul Gandhi of taking the soft Hindutva approach sometimes, that is true about Sheikh Hasina as well, where she takes a soft Islamic clerical side, where she wouldn't outwardly say something anti-Hindu, but she would also not outwardly try to, ban the activities of certain ideologies or certain schools, so that she's not driven into political irrelevance.
yeah. I mean, I also think that it would be too soon to assume that Sheikh Hasina is out of the
Yeah, absolutely.
political scenario in
Hmm.
Bangladesh.
Hmm.
And it's not like she has been totally rejected by the Bangladeshi
Yeah,
state. If the administration wanted to not protect her, they would not have given her a safe passage to flee.
that's true.
She very clearly had the back channel support of
From
the
the army.
Bangladeshi
Yeah.
army. She flew to India very quickly in a Bangladesh Air Force C-130J Hercules aircraft. The Bangladesh Air Force had called ahead. They had made arrangements for her to land in India in Agartala. Then they had coordinated with the Indian Ministry of External Affairs. So it's not like Sheikh Hasina has been
Hmm.
totally left out, rejected. And even now, I'm sure she is getting a very detailed and a very well received welcome here, and she's getting a very good kind of plan on how to sort of go about her asylum, her refugee.
Yes.
So it's not like the Bangladesh army has rejected her, and that makes intuitive sense because the incumbent Bangladesh army chief was appointed by her,
Yeah.
and she is known to sort of make all her appointments very, very carefully. I think
Categorically.
most leaders, most popular leaders do that. They sort of appoint all their 3 stars and 4 star generals with very
Yeah.
high amounts of caution.
Another historical context for you guys. Whenever BNP government is in power in Bangladesh, the militancy in Northeast suddenly spikes. And it is said, allegedly, that Khalida Zia is more it's she's more sympathetic to the Pakistani cause and the ISI. So it is a fact that once the BNP government comes in, you will have a sharp uptick in violence in the northeast as well, and that's the last thing that India needs right now.
Yeah, I mean, all of our sensitive
Yeah.
northeast states, like maybe Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura, Mizoram.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think these 4 states, they share a land border with Bangladesh. They have all historically seen some disturbances. Manipur doesn't share a border with Bangladesh, but
It's still close to Silchar.
it's close to
Silchar,
Silchar.
yeah.
If there is a fault in our border guarding, and if there is a improvement in weapon smuggling from the ISI in cahoots with maybe whoever takes charge in Bangladesh next, we could be looking at a turbulent Bangladesh.
Mhm.
Before the events of Bangladesh escalated so quickly, Jay and I were actually planning to make another episode on whatever has been
Happening in
catching
Manipur.
up in Manipur.
Yeah.
And it's not like the crisis in Manipur has totally solved itself.
Yes.
So we will have to be very cautious about our internal security in the next few days. We will have to be very cautious about our border security. This couldn't have come at a more difficult time because last 2-3 days the Director General of the BSF has been prematurely repatriated to his cadre.
Yeah.
So we don't even have a sitting DG BSF at the moment. We have somebody on an additional charge.
Mr.
I think
Daljit Singh.
I think the government would be better served
Chaudhary.
to
Daljit Chaudhary.
I think the government would be better served to appoint a full-time DG BSF who has a pretty good background, and I think the BSF should be working overtime in the next few
Yeah.
months, if not
Not to
next few
mention
years.
that for the jungle terrains of Jammu, we have basically moved 2 battalions of the Assam Rifles from Manipur to Jammu, like specifically in the forest regions, and it is said that it is like highly militant infested. So we are facing a very difficult task ahead of ourselves in Jammu. So an unstable Bangladesh is the last thing that India needs.
Yeah. Uh, Today, I think on the Indian side, speaking of our response, today we had the External Affairs Minister give a statement about how India has always maintained partnership and close relations
Mhm.
with Sheikh Hasina, and that he gave a background of the growing polarization and the student agitation, and basically the Indian stance has been very moderate. It's been postured. All we've said is that India urges restraint, and it gave a background of how it received a request from uh, the military in Bangladesh to have Sheikh Hasina first fly to Agartala and then fly her to Delhi.
You know what is very positive right now, specifically from India's political context, is that for the first time I've seen a very measured and a balanced response from the opposition, where they've said and quote unquote given their full support to the central government without being too personal about it, which is
Yeah,
quite surprising
I
because
think
we didn't get that during Galwan
yeah,
also.
before or after the Rajya
Yeah.
Sabha statement, I'm not sure.
Mhm.
There was an all-party meeting
Yeah.
also, in which many representatives from the party, from across political parties were there. Leader of opposition Rahul
Mhm.
Gandhi was also present, and there is naturally a sense of bipartisan
Yeah.
or tripartisan in India, because there's so many parties, or how many partisan consensus on international relations. Because I mean, it's a national interest, so that doesn't change with ideology. That's
Yeah.
fortunate. But having said that, I think I want to take this to my favorite part of this discussion, which is the conspiracy theories relating to
Hey, woo woo!
conspiracy theories relating to the administration, the protests, and how it was taken
Yeah.
down. I mentioned the interview of Deep Haldar on the print. He's a journalist who has very closely watched Bangladesh for a while. In fact, if you're watching us right now, I would strongly recommend watching his interviews with the print after. So he quoted that Jamaat basically at some point even met US officials, and this is from like very reputed journalists in Bangladesh, that not only around the elections last time were US officials meeting BNP, and it's fair of the US officials to meet the BNP because BNP is the principal opposition party in Bangladesh. But what is the reason for the United States government officials to meet Jamaat officials, if not for any kind of for if not for
Destabilization.
any kind of internal interference
Yeah.
in the politics of the country? So
South Asia in general.
yeah, so we need to
Destabilization.
look into these elements,
Yeah.
whether it was the CIA, whether it had ISI
Deep
interference.
state, bro. Deep state.
So
Deep state. Deep
there's
state of the United
let
States.
let me be like as clear as I can. It would be naive to factor out any kind of
Exactly.
intelligence agency playing a backhand role in these things. More often than not, in smaller South Asian countries, that is the case.
Yeah.
So I would
It's
not
going
at
to be
all
some
be
Black
surprised.
Ops paper like some 30, 40 years from now where the American government takes full accountability for their actions because they do this all the time. Whenever they see threat anywhere emanating, whenever they see like, the status quo being challenged, they will try to stir up problems and they will try to destabilize it. And I think the favorite trump card for the Americans in general, historically, in the
Yeah.
last 20 years, has been the Islamists.
Yeah.
I feel ISIS, Al Qaeda, Taliban, all these organizations are in essentiality the creation of the United States of America. And this is not a conspiracy. This has happened because of their actions. This has happened because of their policy. And now they just use it in places where they want to, do some political arm twisting. And yeah, that's exactly what they're doing here.
I mean, the US has always misread this region a lot.
Yeah.
It was misreading it.
Oh, they're
with-
not misreading it. They know what,
no,
what
no,
they're
no.
doing.
I'll disagree with you
Okay.
on that.
They
I
know.
think
Okay.
they clearly misread it in 1971 also, when the US was very strongly backing the West
Pakistanis.
Pakistani establishment
Mhm.
against the advice of their own ambassador in East Pakistan.
Archer Blood.
Very well documented in the book Blood Telegram.
Read that book.
So I don't think that the sense that is in Dhaka or in Delhi is always accurately captured by Washington DC.
Mhm.
I do feel like there are some narrow strategic interests that Washington DC might have. As a result, they want to sort of re-establish maybe the Zia administration. Maybe they want army to continue
Mhm.
running the interim government. We don't know yet, but there was definitely an aversion to a strong, stable leader on part of the Western countries. Even Sheikh Hasina went almost in a very strangely fictional conspiracy angle with that when she started alleging that there is a white Christian country which wants to carve out a Christian state out of parts of India, Bangladesh, and Myanmar. These are her words, not mine. It sounds almost fictional, and it almost sounds a little funny. But
But why is it that there are so many American Christian missionaries who are coming to the Northeast and, openly supporting militant activities? There was an American missionary who was basically thrown out of India for supporting such terror related activities, but he was somehow again let inside India on a tourist visa. And this is a fact. This is a well documented fact. So there cannot be no denying of the fact that there is a certain section of Protestant Christians, be it the Lutherans, or the Calvinists, who are eyeing the massive populations of South Asia, Southeast Asia, to carve out their little theological wonderlands, which are basically run on the principles of Christ.
I'm not here to cry conspiracy.
This is not
but,
conspiracy. This is happening.
I understand what you're saying.
This is happening. This is a fact.
But having said
Yeah.
that, now our interest lies in the fact
Yeah.
that the Northeast situation in India can potentially get more complicated.
Yeah.
So our policy interest should be in strengthening the border security force. It should
Mhm.
be in strengthening the Assam Rifles. We need a lot of political stability within our own country to meet these security challenges, because we have Pakistan on one side looming under debt.
Mm.
Its public debt is almost crushing its economy.
Yeah.
We had the Afghanistan Taliban takeover not too long ago.
Mhm.
So naturally, these are areas proximate to our northern areas, which are facing the challenge of the militancy now in Jammu.
Mhm.
And on top of that, you will have to redeploy some security forces, BSF battalions, Assam Rifle battalions in the northeastern region.
Mhm.
So finding a delicate balance is going to be difficult. So I think this should be a time when we will need a lot of political consensus and a lot of overtime working hours of security forces
Absolutely.
to meet our challenges, because it's not
Mhm.
going to be easy.
One last thing, I feel it's high time that people acknowledge that the Hindus of Bangladesh are actually having a very, very difficult time ahead of themselves.
Facts.
And just because I am talking about or am criticizing Islamists, that does not mean I'm Islamophobic. It's like the same argument that the Israelis use when once their high-handed policy against the Palestinians is criticized, they cry anti-Semitism. So people who get angry at me for criticizing the Islamists, the Deobandis, the Salafists, that does not mean I'm Islamophobic. I'm just calling out the extremist elements. So don't be so lazy. I have criticized a lot of right wing Hindutva politicians as well.
So
So
I
that does
think
not make me Hindu phobic. So it is very important that you don't view
I think
this
what I
stance of mine as, something which is blasphemous. It's not. I'm just criticizing the extremist elements, and that does not make me Islamophobic. It does not.
I think that it was also in very bad taste how they were showing videos of people just inside the residence of Sheikh Hasina
Yeah.
gobbling up food. And
And then,
I think if it
taking
was
out
any,
her underwear and,
yeah,
displaying it.
if it was any other religious
Yeah.
community doing the same protest,
Like, oh my God.
I think feminist groups would have objected to it.
Yeah.
But just because I think because feminist groups are a little bit averse to pointing out flaws in Islam, they didn't raise the fact
They'll
that
never.
they
Sorry.
didn't raise the fact that it was extremely distasteful how you have people publicly displaying her underwear and just almost behaving like
I'm sure some
savages.
groups must have, but like the usual people who raise these issues, they did not, make a huge deal about it. I mean, why wasn't Greta Thunberg making a huge deal about it? I mean, she had so many things to say about the farmers' protests in India. So clearly, we have to take the international communities, organizations like Amnesty International, and all these other organizations who basically manufacture consent with a pinch of salt,
Yeah, I
because
think it's
uh,
time that
yeah,
if we are promoting a culture of accountability, why should accountability
just come to one group.
only be on the state? Accountability should also be held by international
Yes,
organizations, especially when they do biased reporting and especially when they hold a double standard.
absolutely.
I think on that note,
We can.
I am ready to wrap up today's
Yes,
conversation.
we are wrapping up today's conversation.
Thank you.
And
Thank you for joining
एक
us.
और चीज मैं बोल देता हूँ, आखिरी बात। हिंदुओं को मारा था रजाकारों ने, उनकी औरतों का रेप किया था बांग्लादेश में, और just because I am pointing this out, that does not make me Islamophobic. Bye.